We are perfectly on time. No notes.
During the Patrick Mahomes era, you are absolutely used to what we are about to experience. The Chiefs are playing in the divisional round. They have not lost in the divisional round, and they are in the pursuit of the three-peats. The season starts now. Let's go!
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Been waiting to say this. Woo! I'm still Matt Hamilton. Hi, I'm Matt Hamilton. I've been waiting to say that. That's what I've been waiting to say.
Let's talk about it.
What a sick catchphrase from that guy. I want to welcome you all in to a live playoff edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC. Wednesdays are Matter Days, and it is the first playoff Matter Day in the history of the world. I'm Matt Swanson. I'm here with Matt Hamilton and Matt Lane. Lane, happy playoffs. Matt Lane.
You should have left that one. Thank you. You should have left that one where let that one lie. We are here. It's playoffs. Although, I don't know. I have weird feelings about this. Hamilton, I don't know if you know this, but the divisional round's it's not a big deal for us Chiefs fans. We always go to conference championship games.
I was about to ask, do you guys even care? It doesn't get you juiced up, or does it just the regular season is now the preseason? The divisional round is all right.
The regular season, whatever. The regular season ends December 25th.
Yeah, none of it matters. None of it matters. It's just the Super Bowl is the only exciting time of year now.
True, really, and it's actually after the Super Bowl when they win. It's really just draft season. It's exciting. I just really started counting down every year for the next draft season.
So we can find out who that 32nd pick's going to be. Yeah,
that's right.
Hey, look, you mocked me about being done by Christmas.
I mocked you about being done by Thanksgiving. In August, that was the discussion. That was the first time I ever talked to you guys, and that's how it's. We're talking about in August how the season's going to be over in Thanksgiving.
One fourth down stop on a QB run is the only thing that stopped it from being true too. That's the crazy part.
It is true.
I will say this: going into Monday, Tuesday, probably. We were going into this game, and I almost sent out a DM to the Kent and Craig and some other people I talked to, and it's like, hey guys, I'm a little nervous about this game coming up because every Chiefs fan I know is overly confident, and not overly confident in a bad way, just nobody thinks there's any chance the Chiefs lose. The Texans team still great win over the Chargers. Not that many people are believing in them besides talking heads trying to talk up their defensive line as if the Chiefs didn't just play them a couple weeks ago. But I was about to say, man, I'm kind of getting nervous just based on how much hype and how confident everybody is. And so I was about to be I feel like I'm in a weird spot. But then it dawned on me, one, that's how a lot of fans, I think, were last year when the Chiefs were going to play the Miami Dolphins. And I was like, this is silly. There's no reason for you guys to be nervous about this team. And it's I feel like I was kind of falling into that pitfall. And then I kind of watched some of what the Texans did, and I'm excited to talk about the matchup. I think the Chiefs are a tough matchup for the Texans, so we'll get into it more. I will say I had a glimmer of nervousness for this game, but it's gone now, Hamilton.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to blame you with especially with the Texans' offenses looked like. As long as the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, they should be fine. That's really obviously in every game that's the equalizer, but especially this one because that's one area of the Texans, as we saw against the Chargers, that pass rush, that secondary, they can force you into some mistakes, and that's the only thing I think that'll give the Texans a chance in this game if they're able to do that.
Well, that was the defensive preview for this show, I guess. You guys basically did the show in 90 seconds, so
there it is.
We're on TV time.
More trivia. Yeah,
I will.
Okay, hold on. Trivia from the hill.
Oh no, Hamilton.
Ken's nightmare.
You have no idea what this
You don't
man has
understand.
put me through.
Two things that could not rattle Kent more: me going off script of the rundown and trivia. These are the two things that keep Kent awake at night.
I have a little little Ron Burgundy to me, where like I have that prompter up. It's just hard not to deviate away.
Good question, Brennan. I don't know who this Kent is. Yeah,
who's Kent? Yeah, sorry, Matt. Yeah, respect me by my name. I will say, and Matt, you can attest to this. I am always pretty nervous about every game. Even though this team is undefeated and knock on wood, Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown an interception in the divisional round. And like Patrick Mahomes has essentially been flawless in the divisional round, like the entirety of his career. Playoff football, I love it. I also I'm always going to be nervous heading into a game. I have a belief and expectation of good things happening. I'm so glad you're muted right now, Maddie, or whatever just happened. You just talked. I can mute you there. I'll mute you now. I have nerves. I'm always nervous, even when I have strong belief in this football team. So, you know what? This is probably going to be cathartic for me, just to walk through the reasons why the Kansas City Chiefs will win. And I do have still have a ton of confidence in them, but there's just always that, I think there's Chiefs fans come by a lot of these emotions, honestly, because they were dragged through the mud for so long. And they had large gaps in playoff victory, winning playoff football. They didn't draft a quarterback in the first round for 33 years. So many things with this football team, there's still a history with all of this stuff. So I think there's a little bit of emotions here there. To be fair, Patrick Mahomes has destroyed about all of them. All of the anxieties about out the window, but there's always something in the back of your head that, maybe. I still feel good about this team, but we're going to preview this football game. Both these teams did indeed.
That's right.
Match up less than a month ago. We are going to do a game preview episode, offensive and defensive side of the football. We are starting with the offense, as we always do on this show. Someone talking about the Colts playoff game. I was at that one, by the way. Unfortunately,
the good one or the bad one?
The bad one.
Okay.
38. Bad one. Hamilton's so glad I was there. You see that smile? He's so glad that I had to experience that in person. So glad.
Poor Jamal.
Just like to know that you've experienced some pain in your life. No.
The first 26 years of my 28 years of my life, a lot of Chiefs pain.
Oh, you're old.
Yeah, that's right. Maddie wasn't alive 28 years ago. Matty Lane wasn't alive 28 years ago. Okay, offensive side of the football, Kansas City Chiefs. We've dominated this conversation, I think, everywhere, and I think it's because it's one of the most prevailing points of this game is the offensive line's situation. Matty Lane and Matt Swanson, myself, we talked a little bit about it on Monday. Actually, Kent Swanson and Matty Lane talked about it on Monday. Hamilton, what do you think the Chiefs should do at the offensive tackle, offensive guard spot on the left side?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it sounds like Andy is really kind of just seeing how this week goes and giving both guys reps. And I'm sure he has in mind what he wants to do, but it's a tough one because, as we talked about, obviously Tooney being out there has helped the pass protection tremendously. It's hurt them in the run game. It's hard against these. Tooney did such a good job last time slowing down this Houston pass rush. I feel, and Humphries, again, week 18, it's hard to read anything into, but he didn't look great then either. My instinct is to go with Tooney, protect Patrick, go with the line that's going to protect him the best. And I think that's the iteration that does that. I do think, ideally, if DJ Humphries can be the DJ Humphries we've seen in the past, that gives them the best offensive line. I just don't have the confidence that that's going to happen. And trying it out in a playoff game against a pass rush like this is kind of scary. So I would go with Tooney personally.
I don't want to continue to beat the dead horse. I think I've kind of, said where Kent and I've Kent and Matt Swanson have said where we are at this for a while, for a couple weeks now. I think I lean towards rolling with DJ Humphries with the knowledge that you can switch to Tooney if things aren't working out. Chase that ceiling a little bit. I think, and just to reiterate it, and I guess I could actually ask Hamilton for, your thoughts on this too. The Chiefs have been throwing a lot of quick passing game the past couple weeks. Has been working. Like their offense has looked better with that, but it's been a lot of really quick passes. I wonder, and I don't know for sure, but I wonder if part of that is because they have a guard playing left tackle. And Joe Tooney, when you watch him, like he doesn't really get deep in his pass set. So I wonder how much of the Andy Reid offensive Cheesecake Factory menu, and not as off limits, but he doesn't want to really go into because he doesn't have a left tackle that can get depth. So if they have somebody that can potentially get there, I just wonder if that's not, the route that they might start the game with the knowledge that, hey, if we have to switch and go back to Tooney and Caliendo at halftime, they're ready. They've done it. We know what that looks like. So that's the only reason I think I lean towards DJ Humphries. And because we're going to talk a little bit more about this pass rush in a second. Caliendo versus the interior offensive line of Houston does scare me a little bit. I don't think he has played great in this time at left guard. So that's the angle I'm coming from. Like, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer though at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that's why I do think the ideal situation is Humphries. Because for the reasons you just laid out, I do think they've scaled back the passing game a little bit. It does seem pretty clear that they've done that. They've gone with more quick passes. You obviously, like for a playoff game, you want to have everything on the menu. And I do think Humphries working out there is the ideal situation. And it's a good point. You can always, if it's not working out, you can make the switch at any time and everybody's ready to go. So maybe we do see them try it, especially, when you talk about the athleticism that Anderson and Hunter have, it's hard to put even though Tooney did well the last game, if you want to try to open up more of that menu, it's a tall order to ask a guard to have to deal with those guys off the edge. It's going to be a lot on his plate. So, if there's ever a time to try out Humphries and you can pull him if it's not working out, it is this game, because I think that there is some margin for error in this game, which, while they'll be favored in the AFC Championship, and we can get to that when we get there, there's going to be less of a margin for error in that AFC Championship game, whoever they end up playing, than there is going to be this week. So now's the time to figure it out.
Well, Hamilton, that's why they can just use the first round of the playoffs as the regular season, right? Like that's what the champagne problems that we're having here in Kansas City. I think it's at least interesting to acknowledge that, first off, Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, one of the best pass rush pairings in the National Football League. They've seen this offensive line once already, and I think that's at least a little bit interesting. They've seen Joe Tooney out there at the left tackle spot. They've seen what his plan is out there, and I think it's a limited plan relative to, very good, but limited relative to what other people, a tackle with longer arms and more experience out there could provide. This is, like we just got done, though, saying Matty Lane, this is one of the, best pairings in the NFL. And, there's a little bit of depth there, too.
Yeah. And so I agree with that. The defensive ends, the edge rushers, phenomenal rushers. They just had their way, but they just had success against Joel for the Chargers, like who's been a better tackle than anybody the Chiefs are going to put out there at left tackle this year, right? So they can make whoever plays out there pay if the rush plan is right. My concern comes from the fact that the Texans defensive line as a whole, they're one of like the top 5 teams in terms of the amount of stunts or games that they run up front and getting pressure off of them. And whereas now with putting DJ Humphries in there, that already gives it's another new face. Him and Tooney haven't played next to each other a lot. So I get the concern there, but my concern also comes in with, I don't know if I want Caliendo having to pick up all these stunts and twists. And now again, taking a guard who, great guard, for an all-pro Hall of Fame type of guard here in Joe Tooney, he's still, a guard. He has good tackle movement skills, but they're not elite. And now you're asking him when he's jump setting or getting flat out, on these hard angle sets, you're now asking him to cover more space on these stunts and twists. I can just foresee some of that stuff becoming a problem as the game goes on if you have the Caliendo Tooney combo. Not saying that DJ Humphries and Tooney would be perfect by any stretch. I'm just trying to look beyond Tooney's playing really good in this position right now, let's run with it, kind of going about how the Texans are going to pass rush. I could see multiple ways for them to attack the Chiefs offensive line. If they go Tooney Caliendo, it's speed up the arc, because Tooney does struggle when you get those wide alignments and get guys really getting off the field, that ball does need to come out in 2.5 seconds, or he does struggle to run them up the arc. And then you add in the twists and stunts. Danico Autry was an absolute monster against the Chargers this past week. You're going to have him getting one-on-one with Trey Smith, who he's had good reps against, but then also Mike Caliendo, who I think that's a big mismatch as well. It's just, I would get a little nervous about that. So like that, there's a couple things that lean me towards Humphries-Tooney combo for this game.
Yeah, the ceiling is absolutely higher with that combo. It's just, the floor could be, we've seen with DJ a couple times, the floor can be pretty low if he's not back up to, his standards. So, it's always nice to try to aim for that high ceiling and then adjust if it's not working out.
I think regardless of who you see out at the left tackle position, they're going to be getting help. You're going to be giving them help both schematically with your play calling, with your quick game, right? You're still going to have quick game. And I think a heavier dose of quick game than even you saw earlier in the year. Like, I think whoever is the left tackle is, you're going to have more quick game incorporated into this offense. But I don't think that stops there. And like the Chiefs do this a lot when they're facing really good pass rushers. They have great plans when they're playing against really good pass rushers, and they do a lot of different things to slow them down. They'll create traffic over there with tight ends. They'll chip, they'll double, they'll unblock and run jet past them and kind of just give them a lot to think about at any given time. You'll get a puller here or there on them. You're just making them think through a lot of different things throughout the game. And whoever lines up out there, the Chiefs are going to have to do that. They're going to have to get creative. They're going to have to be in their bag with the variety of things that they're able to do offensively to just try to slow down a pass rush and screen game, getting the ball out of their hands. Like, all that kind of stuff is going to be a huge factor, regardless of who the left tackle is for this team and regardless of who the left guard is for this team.
Well, and it's real notable that you just talked. I just want to say you want to talk about that with the defensive end thing, and I think this will tie into another point. So I'm taking this
perfect. Love it.
The way this Houston Texans defensive line plays, and the whole defense, but the defensive line in particular, is very similar to how the 49ers have often played. And we have seen what Andy Reid has done to young Nick Bosa when they have played. It's jet motions, it's screens, it's these late chips, early chips, quick chips. Like, he throws everything at him, but then, and so to, throw him off his game, to make him hesitate a little bit coming off the line of scrimmage, but they also slip a lot of stuff in behind him, whether it is screens, tight end screens, running back screens, whatever it is, the jet stuff, they throw a lot of that out there. So you go back and watch the Texans, even after the Chiefs game, they only really had one more preseason game that mattered against regular season game against the Ravens that mattered. And then the Chargers, it's still the same thing though. Those defensive ends are getting off the line of scrimmage. They're attacking. It's not any kind of read react. They are not trying to play two gap and a half. No. They are going for the quarterback. You can get a lot of stuff in behind them. So I think you're going to get a classic Andy Reid versus 49ers coaching tree offensive game plan, which does have a lot of horizontal stuff. It does have a lot of behind the line of scrimmage kind of gimmicky things, and one or two might get blown up, which is going to upset fans. But you got to remember, this is a game-long thing where they are trying to either slow down these defensive ends, or they are trying to set it up to have big plays. And the Ravens found some big plays in the screen game and the misdirection stuff. The Chargers offense couldn't do a whole lot, but they hit a couple screen plays that did have like a little bit of, they had Will Dissly, I believe, caught a screen pass and went for over 10 yards. I mean, come on. Like, what are we doing here? So like, there is a way to attack these defensive ends who are very aggressive. And I do think that is going to be part of what Andy does to not only, slow down the pass rush, but it's also one of the best ways to attack the secondary, which has a lot of talent on the back end as well.
Yeah, and you're right. Andy, I don't think gets enough credit for that. I mean, he is, when it comes to creativity and the genius in messing with a pass rush, he is as good as it gets. I mean, all the things we've seen over the years, and like Juju chipping, Khalil Mack, I think a couple of years ago, things like that have, he will throw everything at you. And it's obviously worked really, really well over the years. And you're right. The style too that the Texans play is very similar, and you can use that aggressive. I mean, Hunter and Anderson just pin their ears back and go after the quarterback with reckless abandon, and you could certainly use that to your advantage.
Well, and like, the screen game has not been great for the Chiefs this year. It's not been up to the normal standards, but that's one of those things I think could be a factor in the playoffs though. Like, Andy is normally very good at figuring some of these things out and working through stuff and kind of just getting this team to play at the right time. And I just think the screen game will have a couple timely moments. And you're right. I do think this defense is a great, defense to line, up against. I feel like the Chiefs it feels like the Chiefs screen game, regardless of how it's looked in the regular season, it feels like the Chiefs have always had pretty good answers in the screen game during the playoffs. And part of that could be, reckless abandon aggression, just from everyone playing on the field. You're playing with such emotion, you're playing with such energy, you're playing with such aggression during the playoffs that you can actually use that to your advantage if you're leveraging things like the screen game. So I think you're going to see some timely moments in the screen game. I think I think the Chiefs will do well. I think this is a great game for them to try to get the screen game involved a little bit. In the passing game, what are you guys looking to see from the pass catchers? What are your expectations for what you see out of the Chiefs receiving core, wide receivers, and Ty Hamilton?
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of what we've seen since Hollywood Brown has come back into the lineup. They're going to spread the ball around. There is a depth of talent across the board in this passing game now that I can't say full strength because Rashee Rice isn't there still, but full strength for this version of the Chiefs. And I think Mahomes has done a tremendous job as a distributor, especially in recent weeks. He's protected the ball. It's crazy to think where we were for week 11. He had turned the ball over every single week, and now he hasn't thrown a pick in 2 months. It's unbelievable. But yeah, and I do think we're going to see some wrinkles. If you're the Chiefs, you don't want to show your hand in the preseason that is the regular season. I think there's stuff that they've held back, and we're going to see some of it start to come out now too. So it is, as much as we joke about it, I really do think there's a lot of stuff that that's still on the that they still haven't shown that we're going to see here, especially with a month of sitting around, kind of workshopping, prepping. This is going to be, I really think we are going to see no disrespect to the Texans defense, which is tremendous. I think we're going to see a big time offensive performance and especially out of this passing game.
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate for the Texans this match. So like I said, I think the Chiefs match up pretty well with the Texans. I think a big thing that's going against the Texans here in this is I was trying to find the exact numbers again, but what I looked at the other day going into it, the Texans play a fair amount, a lot of quarters. They're one of the heaviest quarters usage teams in the NFL, but they also play a lot of cover one man coverage. They're not quite as high, but they're still top 10. So were the Steelers. So were the Denver Broncos. Who are the 3 teams the Chiefs might have faced this round? It's all 3 of those teams. Those were their opponents. So I think the Chiefs are going to have a lot of stuff kind of ready, especially for man coverage. And we saw it in that first game against the Texans. They went man a lot in high leverage situations. And Andy just said, okay, Hollywood Brown's back. We are just going to never put him on the line of scrimmage. We're going to hide him behind everybody else. And he is going to run some kind of crosser, or we might fake it and run a corner. And we're just going to create nonstop conflict and mesh points and crossers and all this stuff. Oh, we're going to hit P. Ryan on the rail shot. Travis Kelce's going to change a route mid-play just so he gets in the way and the guy's wide open. They absolutely torched the Texans man coverage. I will say the Texans didn't play near as much man against the Ravens or the Chargers. So they might back off that again against the Chiefs, but it's the same thing. The Chiefs saw everything they did with the heavy quarter stuff. I think this plays a role into the quick passing game. You want to play quarters. You want to keep 2 high safeties. You want to have 1 off corner almost every single play. A lot of quick sideline flood stuff this is what the Andy Reid offense was the entire first half of the season. So it's just, I don't see a lot of levers available right now. And we'll see once the game starts, other than the pass rush. The pass rush could just come out and dominate this game, right? That's a possibility. Just in terms of pure coverage, I feel like the way Andy Reid calls a game and the way this Chiefs offense is clicking is kind of the opposite of what the Texans want to go up against. They can't play man coverage because they can't really handle what Andy calls up out of all the bunches, all the motion, all the crossing stuff. And when they go quarters, you're just leaving yourself vulnerable to the flood concepts that Andy gets into. Good luck playing quarters and covering a 4-by-1 formation with some kind of sideline flood concept with Mahomes at quarterback. It just doesn't work very well, especially when it's this easy to predict and see pre-snap. So I don't think the Chiefs passing attack is going to have a ton of issue moving the ball. Maybe not a lot of big plays, but I think they'll be able to be plenty efficient in this game.
Yeah, and I have some numbers for you there. So
perfect.
In that first matchup, the Texans are the third highest, run the third highest amount of quarters of any defense in the NFL. In that first matchup, they only ran it 6.7% of the time. Their season average is almost 30%. The first matchup they played man almost 50% of the time. So yeah.
That's crazy.
So you got to think they're going to get back to what they do and
Yeah.
play a little bit more quarters. But you're right; that's a tough that's tough against this offense.
Well, and if we're talking about, and continuing to joke, we're not joke about how the Chiefs have managed the season. I think you saw the last couple of weeks against AFC opponents, against teams that, you could see in the playoffs. They started to kind of round into shape, and you started to see some of their, some real winners on the call sheet showing up, right? And I think the Chiefs had pretty good answers against their man coverage for good stretches of this game. And so I think, I be fascinating to see what the Texans elect to do, right? I know you kind of listened to the Chiefs talking about, they have some of their evergreen stuff, at the ready for in this week, getting some of the stuff that's good against anything or can be good against most things kind of stuff. A lot of those base plays kind of getting worked through this last week. And now I think you get some more specific stuff. You're ready for man and you have good answers against quarters. If they're going to play soft coverage, that actually kind of, I think, helps the offensive line situation a little bit more. Offensive players to watch time. Hamilton, who you got?
I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins for this one. The former team thing, one thing, sure, we got his earlier matchup with the Texans, but this is his first playoff game in 5 years.
Wow.
I feel like he's going to be shot out of a cannon for this one. And I think we're going to see some vintage D-Hop. I think we're going to see some vintage Nuke and some big plays. Remember his first, one of his first games as a Chief, that first primetime game against the Bucs, we saw some of those classic DeAndre Hopkins moments out of him with the adrenaline flowing. I really think that's what we're going to see here. I think we're going to get a big DeAndre Hopkins game here in his first playoff game in 5 years. And I think the last one was that Chiefs game, that comeback. He was on the other side of that one in this same matchup. So I think big DeAndre Hopkins game, calling it right now.
That's a good one. I love the connection there. I'm also sticking to the wide receiver spot. I'm going with Hollywood Brown. The first Texans game was his first game back. He had a pretty solid game, but like I said, the Chiefs just kind of protected him and let him get free run to go around and to get his feet back under him and stuff like that. I think now you have all this extra time where he's been at full practice. He got the extra game reps in. I think you're going to get the full-on plan for what Hollywood Brown was supposed to be this year, which, while he can do what he did, the goal for Hollywood Brown when they brought him in was not to just be the number 3 that runs across or, out of a stack split over and over again like did against the Texans. He's going to be asked to do real stuff. He's probably, in this current iteration of DeAndre Hopkins at his age, probably the Chiefs' best route runner. I think they will play him outside some. Derek Stingley's great. Kamari Lassiter has had a phenomenal year for a rookie. He also ran like a 4.65. Let's make that guy run a little bit. He's a great player, but you can see guys get behind him throughout the year. This says this is a Hollywood Brown coming out party kind of, because he hasn't really gotten to get that full run this one. So I'm going to lean Hollywood on this one. Although I like the Hopkins, not revenge, but just against the old team angle as well.
Give me Kareem Hunt. So we haven't really talked much about the run game here. Last time that these two teams matched up, 11 carries, 55 yards. It's about to be better because Joe Tooney's kicking inside and DJ Humphries is playing the left tackles, and the run game is going to get going even a little bit more. But I think the run game does need to be better than it was as the season was closing out. Kareem Hunt had a pretty solid performance against the Texans the last time that these two teams played. But he's had 23 days of rest. He's had a lot of rest as well, which is good for him. Let him get his body right for the home stretch, because he's been the Chiefs' best running back this season. But I also think he could sneakily be a value in the passing game too here, right? Especially, the Chiefs sprung Samaje Perine on a really nice man beater against the Texans last time that these two teams matched up. It was a big explosive play. It was the most explosive play of the passing game for either team in that game, 36 yards, little shoot route with rub concept. I think we're going to get Kareem Hunt sprung on a pass play, whether it's the screen game or some kind of man coverage beater here too. I think he's going to wind up being a factor in the passing game in this game too. So Kareem Hunt, last time these two teams matched up, 11 carries, 55 yards and a touchdown. And he actually did pretty good in the air, 2 catches, 24 yards. So give me Kareem Hunt as my offensive player to watch. That was brought to you by Tickets for Less. Promo code KCSN. gets you your best available discount at ticketsforless.com. We're going to take a break, talk about the defense right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Game preview edition of the KC Laboratory, getting you ready for that divisional round. And if you need something to do for the divisional round, come sign up to be at Holiday Distillery out in Weston, Missouri. We are having a watch party out there. Great drinks, gonna be a great time. It's in a gorgeous event center out there, and it's the scenery is beautiful. Giant fireplace. It's and it's warm in there. Don't get me wrong. Tons of TVs, walls of TVs. It's such a fun environment to be out at. If you've seen some of the backdrops of things that we've done for like the NFL draft or any of that stuff, that's all at that same event center in Holiday Distillery. So it is a lot of fun out there. There's a link in the description of this show if you would like to sign up for that. Tucker's going to be out there. BJ's going to be out there. Joshua Briscoe is going to be out there. It's going to be an awesome time. Make sure you go check it out. Sign up. Links in the description of the show. Bring your friends if you'd like. It'd be a lot of fun. I know Matt Hamilton would be there if you could.
I'm so jealous that I can't be out there. I mean, you had me at Tucker, first of all. But I am, honestly, like these events sound so fun. All the scenes from them look awesome. I got to make it out there for one of these at some point.
I'm telling you, Hamilton, we got to figure out a time for you to get out here. Like Up and Adams just needs to come do like a on-site thing in KC, and then we'll take you out to Holiday. We'll hang out. We'll show you the barbecue spots and all that kind of good stuff. So like, were you here for the draft?
We were. Yeah. Yeah.
Was it with what we got? Was Up and Adams up and Adam yet? Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I couldn't remember if you guys launched yet, but
yeah, that was our first draft as a show. Yep. We were out there. We got to do the show right in front of the draft stage. I did get to see BJ and Tucker while I was out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that's the last time I've been out there. So dying to get back.
Dang. I wish Matter Days was a thing by then, because we'll figure it out next time you're in KC.
Yeah,
we're gonna figure that out. You guys should just do the draft in KC, even though it's in Green Bay. Just
sounds like a good plan.
You guys had so much fun here, but we'll
get lodging in Green Bay anyway.
Yeah, actually, the lodging might extend all the way to KC anyway for that.
Pretty close,
dude. I've driven. So I went to. I'm sorry, sidebar. I went to family night, which is like a free practice essentially in Lambeau, because I wanted to go to Lambeau. I was with my buddy. Hey, Jake Stack does the draft guide with us. It took hours to get out of Lambeau's parking lot or that area and out of Green Bay, because their roads are like, the infrastructure there was just like a mess. And it was like, there's tight roads. It's like one lane. It's like getting out of there is just crazy traffic all the way to Appleton.
And just getting there from that was my first time there this summer for a training camp tour, and even just getting to Green Bay in general is something. We had that was the one time on the tour, and you figure during the summer there are a lot of storms, a lot of stuff going on. I figured there's going to be one stop, a couple stops where we're going to have some travel issues. That was the one, and I'm still not quite sure how we made it there.
Yeah, you guys should just find a hotel right by Titletown or something. Like, that's the move. Book it now.
Yeah. That's what we did. That Lodge Kohler, which is like right across the street. It was perfect. Yeah.
Did you go to Kroll's? The burger place?
No, we went to this place called Cheesecake Heaven, which was
say less.
It was unreal.
You had me at Cheesecake.
Next time you go, you gotta get there. Yeah.
Cheesecake. You could say Cheesecake Hell, and I'd be like, I'm in. Did you get cheese curds?
I did not get the cheesecake. I know, but I did get the cheesecake. It was phenomenal. And they had sandwiches. It was unreal.
I should do this show while I'm hungry, I guess.
Cheesecake.
That D line's ready to eat, though. Let's talk about the defense. We've seen these two teams line up in the last month. Obviously, the game that the Chiefs played against the Texans last time around, Tank Dell got hurt in the middle of the game. That kind of changed a lot of things for this team. since then, they've really had a hard time finding their footing, though, Hamilton.
Yeah, they really have. And it's just the offensive line has been poor. And there's just, when they're able to get their run game going with Mixon, they can have some success. This passing game, it's rougher. And as Stroud doesn't seem to be playing with a ton of confidence. He doesn't look like the same guy that he was last year. And it could just be the accumulation of all the hits, all the pressures that he's been under this year, because it's been a lot on him. And when you lose, a bunch of your top receivers, that also doesn't help. And Nico Collins is a phenomenal talent. I don't think he gets talked about it nearly enough nationally, but it's hard when it's just him. And even now, like Dalton Schultz is dealing with injuries. It's slim pickings as far as his playmakers right now.
This is such a difficult side of the ball, this matchup to talk about, because it's after Nico Collins, and you can mention CJ Stroud is a very talented quarterback. He can, if he comes out and plays a great game, nobody's absolutely shocked. It is going to be a little surprising given how he's played the majority of the year. But after Nico Collins, there's just nothing there. That Laramie Tunsil's their best offensive lineman. He's not playing up to the standard he has set for himself. They've shuffled guys along the interior and at right tackle, and nothing has stuck out as working well. It's just slightly better than it was before. So constant pressure. Nico Collins is the only guy that can get open. They have a cast of wide receivers that going into the year were guys that were threatening to be wide receiver 4 or 5. And they were the talk was which one of these guys might get cut so that some other team that's a wide receiver needy team might be able to get them. And now they're cutting Deontay Johnson in the middle of the week. And then they're playing Robert Woods and Xavier Hutchinson. And it's just, It's not a scary offense whatsoever. And then the things they do well, aka Nico Collins, is a rough matchup against Steve Spagnuolo, because when Steve Spagnuolo goes up against a one wide receiver team, a team that funnels their offense to one wide receiver, guess what he does? He doubles them all game long, and they're going to go inside, outside, high, low. They are going to throw a lot of stuff at just Nico Collins and say, somebody else beat us. And in that first matchup, they had Tank Dell that was having a great game, and then he unfortunately gets hurt. And right now, when you look at the roster, nobody else is stepping up to beat you. They're making it relatively easy for Spags to go, okay, well, I can still double your best player and then still blitz, because I'm not afraid of any of these other one-on-one matchups. Oh, and because of the way these injuries have shaken out, Nico Collins doesn't get to go play in the slot for 50% of the reps anymore. He has to play out wide far more often than he was before, which makes that even easier to find him and to set up some of these brackets and stuff like that. So it's really hard to see what strings the Houston Texans are going to pull on to really threaten a Chiefs defense that, while they did have their struggles in the middle of the year, they kind of came on down the stretch against that Texans game, against the Steelers, which, Steelers, we can do whatever we want with that game. But it's just I just don't see where the Texans choose to attack this particular style of defense with what they have available to them on offense right now.
Yeah, it's tough. And a lot was made of, the discrepancy between Ladd McConkey and the other Chargers receivers. But if you look at the Texans side of that game, Hutchinson was their second leading receiver behind Nico, and it was that one play, the
one target
snap. Yeah, it was that botch snap. So he was the second leading receiver for Houston in that game. So yeah, it is rough. It is bleak in that Texans receiver room right now behind Nico.
Well, Joe Mixon popped up on the injury report with an ankle injury today, by the way. No designation on Tuesday, limited participation on Wednesday with an ankle injury. This team is beat up. They're a little bit beat up here. Struggling to get all their guys practicing. You talk about Dalton Schultz being a limited participant last 2 weeks or last 2 practices. Shaq Mason, Juice Scruggs. These are guys that have played snaps or started for them off the offensive line. They got their hands full. Especially with, Robert Woods is not practiced this week. And I know that's not saying much, but when it's literally just Nico and not much, John Mechie fumbles the football on the first play. You talk about Hutchinson just now, there's just not a lot of guys that can beat you except for Nico Collins. So what do you think what do you think they try to do to mitigate that? I think hey, maybe they try to run the football a little bit here. And maybe try to, slow.
Good luck.
Good luck, right? By the way, do you guys
Not only great run defense, they're not very good at running the ball there in Houston. Like Joe Mixon's had some
Yeah.
flash. Like Joe Mixon still can make a play or two, but like the consistency, rep in and rep out, is just like it's not there. I think he averages barely over 4 yards per carry, and that was with a handful of 10+ yard runs mixed in against the Chargers. So it's really hard to figure out which buttons they're going to press to have sustained success in this game.
I think, when you look at the run game a little bit too, it wasn't like the Texans were having a ton of success. Like I think you look at the stat line for Joe Mixon against the Chargers running the football, and it's 25 carries, 106 yards. When you look at it though, a little bit deeper, like the run started hitting a little bit late in the game when the game was kind of out of hand. I think the longest run for the Texans or for Joe Mixon came at the, shortly after one of those back-breaking turnovers that the Houston Texans or the Chargers, gave up. So yeah, the first 3 quarters of that game, the run game wasn't doing all that much. And yeah, like it's Nico Collins, 7 catches, 122 yards, and everybody else is just kind of very pedestrian across the board. It's going to be a big challenge for this team to try to generate offense, and like it might be run Nico. Like that might be
that's their offense. That's legitimately their offense. Run, third and long. CJ Stroud bail us out, which has become Nico Collins bail us out because we saw how that went when Nico Collins was hurt. I want to say the Texans rushing offense is second to last in the NFL this year in success rate, whereas the Chiefs rush defense, I know at one point in time was like right there at the top. I think they're more middle of the pack now than what they were in the middle of the year. But like the Chiefs rush defense has been generally pretty good. When you take away QB runs as well, I do think they like kind of hang out right there around top 5 in success rate. So yeah, that's probably something the Texans need to try to establish, but like it's not a great matchup for them to do that.
Real quick, without looking, or you probably both have already looked, but do you know who tight end 2 for the Houston Texans is?
I do.
Hamilton, do you know?
Cade Stover?
Pretty good guess. It's former Chief Irv Smith.
Oh, I thought it was Cade Stover. Is Irv Smith playing more reps? Because Cade Stover actually caught some passes. I don't
think is Cade Stover active right now.
He caught some passes.
He's on IR. Did he get it? Oh, they put him on IR. So he was tight end.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, like, wait a second. No, because he definitely caught some passes.
No,
I watched
him. He's not. I think he got hurt. They put him on injured reserve.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, he definitely just caught passes. So I was like, wait, I'm very confused now.
Yeah, he went on injured reserve yesterday. Man. Irv Smith is their tight end too. It's Dalton Shorts. Yeah. Dalton Shorts. I said Dalton Shorts and Irv Smith.
Who's banged up in Irv Smith? Wow.
Yeah. What do you do with that? What do you do with that?
Run, Nico.
I know. It's just like they barely can. You're gonna run out of 10 personnel. Like, what are we doing? Like, this is gonna be a fascinating approach for them.
Don't get Lane started on 10 personnel again.
Yeah. Oh golly. So anyways, I just that's golly, man, that's tough on them. Anything else on the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs?
No, Chris Jones is going to be back, and that's a very bad sign for the Houston Texans that Chris Jones should be a little bit healthier and are able to play in this game, and their interior offensive line is bad. Like you said, this isn't like a fun side of the ball to talk about because the Houston Texans offense has just been so bad, and I think they play right into what the Chiefs do well, but it's not so much in a situation where the Chiefs are just going to come out and they might, I guess, like they could come out and play a great game and hold them to almost nothing. We saw them do similar stuff last year in the playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl. It's not I don't envision fireworks coming when the Houston Texans have the football in this game.
I think one other note with Chris Jones, like we saw how good that pass rush looked kind of in a cohesive unit the last time, that we saw the first group. But against the Steelers, and now Chris Jones kind of getting back into that, right? So like, I'm just kind of curious how that all plays together, right? Because like, I don't think the complementary pass rushers have always played well off of Chris, and I think we saw some more consistency at different times with Chris, and like when he's locked in and when he's not overrunning plays and he's a little bit more controlled as he's getting to the quarterback. lot of good things happen. And I think that version is what the Chiefs need to have success. Maybe not this week, but next week in the AFC Championship game. Defensive players to watch. Hamilton, what say you?
I'm looking at Trent McDuffie in this one. The first matchup, the first go-around, we were talking about Nico Collins being the only guy you have to worry about. When he was matched up on Nico, 3 catches for 5 yards. He had those 2 tackles for loss on screen passes, which were tremendous plays. He had the interception when CJ inexplicably tried that jump pass over the middle. That was a dominant performance from Trent in that game. As you said, Maddie, I do think, without Tank out there are going to be a lot of double teams on Nico. They're going to do a lot of stuff to mess with him, but it's still, to me, it's Trent in those big moments that's going to be on him, and looking for an encore of that incredible performance a couple of weeks ago.
And that's a good one. I like that one. I was trying to quickly check and see if there's any practice squad call-ups or what the Houston Texans depth is. They don't have enough bodies to go heavy personnel, really. Like they don't even have like fullbacks or tight ends on their practice squad.
You were going to do Leo Snow, weren't you?
I wasn't going to, because I didn't think it was going to matter. I am going to do Nick Bolton because, as we talked about, if the Houston Texans can find, I think, success, they got to keep the Chiefs on their heels, and that means the run game has to excel. Well, I don't think they can go heavy personnel runs. They're going to be running out of 11 personnel, lighter personnel, which means, unfortunately, Shenault won't be out there, but Nick Bolton will be. So Nick Bolton having to be kind of like the key second-level run defender for this team. He's got ebbs and flows with it. Some games he's great, depending on the run scheme they're going up against. Sometimes he can get kind of run at because he doesn't do a great job taking on pullers or fullbacks. If they have one, they can come right at him. So we'll have to see. I think, generally speaking, the Texans lean to a little bit more zone runs, and that's where Bolton seems to have more success. So I think it's going to be a big game for him as a run defender. Him, the defensive line, keeping it 3rd and long, allow the pass rushers to go to work. I think that's like the clearest path to success for this Chiefs defense to kind of almost shut down this Houston Texans offense entirely.
Tegan Quatoriano is designated to return. So you could get a little bit of Tegan Quatoriano in conjunction with Irv Smith.
Sure. Worth putting Irv Smith out there as an extra tight end.
That's why I wanted to look. Like, I don't think Irv Smith counts as an extra tight end.
He's literally tied into on the active roster right now. Andrew Beck.
There we go.
Labeled as a fullback, but he's more tight end-ish. I don't know.
I'm just saying, like,
is Derek Parrish out there anyway?
None of these guys have played enough that, like, you're going to bring them out there to play 10 snaps, is I think kind of like what I'm angling for. They're not going to go deep into the heavy personnel pathway here, is kind of what I'm going for.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And yeah, that means limited Leo, unfortunately, most likely. I'm going to go with Charles Menahue, on the record as hating the Houston Texans organization. As I'm just talking about that, did you not hear that? He's just like,
he doesn't like where they made him play.
He can't. I mean, I feel he just hates every team that he's played for. He came on up in Adams last year, just trashed the Niners too.
Yeah, the team that got him paid. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, got him paid and didn't get him a ring. Yeah, I'm going to go with Charles Menahue, who hates the Houston Texans with the fire of 1,000 suns. And you want to know something? The last playoff stretch, he was pretty dang good. I think people forget that, before the AFC Championship game, when he got hurt during that game, like he had a strip sack in that game. He forced a fumble. Yeah. Like, he was having a fantastic performance before he got hurt, which was really, unfortunate for him, as they were, trying to, they figured it out. Don't get me wrong, but he was having a great performance. And like, for Charles Menahue, this is a big opportunity for him because he's got a limited sample size over the last 2 years, be it a suspension in 2023 and the injury, and then the injury catching up to him this year and him not being able to play for most of the year. This is a big opportunity for him to not only make an impact on this defense, but also get paid in the offseason. Like, if he's going to get any money, he's going to have a big performance over the course of this playoff. And I think you're going to see a really good Charles Menahue, specifically in this game. Again, despises the Houston Texans organization. Game prediction time. Hamilton, what we got?
I do think the Chiefs, for a lot of the reasons that we've laid out, I think they take care of business pretty easily in this one. I think even more easily than the regular season matchup. So I'm going to say 27-13, Kansas City moves on to yet another AFC Championship game, and that's when the real season begins.
Matt Lane.
Oh, my bad. I'm up. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about it. It's hard for me. It's a little difficult for me to see the pathway for the Texans winning. If they do, it's their defensive line's dominant. They force the Chiefs into turnovers. Their offense can capitalize on short fields and maybe win a stinker, kind of like the way the Chargers game was going until like Herbert and that team kind of imploded. That's the only path. The thing is, I just don't foresee the Chiefs going into that path. They have enough other options that they don't have to play that exact same way the Texans take advantage of. On the flip side, there really only seems like one path for the Texans to be even competitive in this game. I don't want to sound like overly confident. I said at the beginning, I was getting a little nervous about the situation going into this week, but the more I watched the Texans and what they did against the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Chargers over their last 3 real games, I just don't see much of a way that the Chiefs don't have a pretty good performance here and win this one easy. I got the Chiefs 31, Texans 15, and same thing, like everybody gets annoyed that the Chiefs don't have to start their season until the following weekend.
So that would be the first time the Chiefs score over 30 points.
Yeah, it's happened in every single game of the playoffs. They're going over 30 every single game this playoffs because they didn't do it a single time in the regular season.
Honestly, that would probably be the narrative that would make the most sense when you're talking about a Chiefs Super Bowl run, because this team does a lot of, this team they find a way to play their best football at the right time. And they have this championship DNA that sounds cliche and sounds silly, but I don't think you really, unless you're inside that building, can really, understand it. Right. And on the outside looking in, I think about last year when this team slogged through the season and was trying to figure out how to win football games and couldn't find enough consistency on offense and just had to essentially, find a way to play the most complimentary football that they possibly could. And they found it. And they found it late. And then they went and played their best football and they took the hardest route possible. And they won the Super Bowl again for a second straight season. And you've seen small glimpses here and there, that championship DNA throughout the season. You saw it the first game against the Baltimore Ravens right out of training camp. You saw them looking hot right after the bye. You've seen them, we're in the playoff stretch here. We're trying to get that 1 seed so we can get that rest and be at optimal performance for mid-January. So we can laugh at Matt Hamilton for having the audacity to believe that we'd be done by Christmas. And here we are. Halloween. Here we are.
Labor Day next year.
And if they do this, if they come out, the Wyoder's expecting a rant. I don't think you're getting a rant today. Maybe next week. But I think you're going to be reminded of the championship DNA this weekend. And I think you're going to be reminded of why this team has done what they've done. There's so much carryover from last year. And even if there wasn't a ton of carryover in the players and stuff from last year, the most important one exists, and that's Patrick Lavon Mahomes. And he has set such a high standard. And he was I genuinely believe he's part of the reason that team was able to push through those 3 games in 11 days, because he led from the front. He set the standard despite the ankle injury. I think you're going to be reminded of what championship DNA looks like. You're going to be reminded of why last February this was labeled a dynasty. I think you're right. The season starts now. And it's disrespectful to say that the 15-1 team was kind of using that regular season as a proving ground, but I think we're about to find out. I think we're about to find out and be reminded what championship DNA looks like. And I think it starts with a domination of the Houston Texans, a continuation of the last time that these two teams played in the playoffs when the Chiefs went on a 51-7 run. So I think the run ends 82-17. Chiefs are going to win
No math, no math.
31-10. 31-10. Chiefs win this game. They remind people who they are. And we'll see what happens in the AFC Championship game hosted at Arrowhead yet again. That is going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We will talk to you after the Chiefs advance to the AFC Championship. We'll catch you later. That doesn't count as
I
a
got
rant.
nothing for that rant.
Nah, it's not a rant.